Alrighty, good morning everyone and welcome to the Environmental Science and Marine Biology webinar. It's great to see that so many of you have decided to join us today. So get comfortable, grab yourself a cup of coffee and we'll get started. Now before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation upon whose ancestral lands our city campus now stands. I pay respect to the elders both past and present, acknowledging them as the traditional custodians of knowledge for this land. Now on to a bit of housekeeping. If I can have the next slide. Great. This webinar will now be recorded. So we'll be recording the audio, the video, the PowerPoint that we're currently sharing, as well as the written questions that you might send us throughout the presentation. Rest assured, we do not have access to your webcam or your microphone. So if you're still in bed in your UDI, your secret is safe. If you still have concerns about your privacy, feel free to contact UTS at marketingprivacy@uts.edu.au. Next slide, please. Yep. Now let me introduce you to your panel today. So first of all, I am Ayusha. I'm a student ambassador at UTS Science, and I'm a second-year PhD student in forensic biology. And I'm so pleased to introduce you to our hosts today. We've got Dr. Lee Martin and Professor David Booth. Now, Lee is the course director for environmental biology and environmental science courses, and David is the course director for Bachelor of Marine Biology. We've also got Sam here today. Sam is a graduate of the Bachelor of Marine Biology degree at UTS and will be able to provide you with some insights about what student life is like at UTS. Next slide. Yep. And together we'll be talking everything about environmental science, marine biology, why you should consider these courses at UTS, what sort of career opportunities await you, and as I said, a bit of insight into the student life. Then we'll open up the floor to any questions you have about the course, or about uni life in general.
Well, thanks, Ayusha. So we're going to start today by giving you some information on our courses and the opportunities that they will present to you in terms of study and your future career. And just briefly, our courses, we seek to develop your skills and practice those skills and learn concepts through a combination of theory, field and laboratory experiences. So the typical pattern would be for course attendance, as a full-time student, if you took a full study load, it's 3 years of study and 4 subjects per session. Session is just another word for semesters, but as we now run summer sessions as well, you can take some subjects in summer. And there's a mix of online and face-to-face learning. We also have some really great laboratory facilities here. We have the Super Lab and we have the new Hive. These are excellent laboratory facilities for teaching. And also one of the things that I think a lot of students find very enjoyable, and I find very enjoyable to teach, is the opportunity to get out in the field and practice the skills as environmental scientists and marine scientists that are so important. And these include subjects like stream and lake assessment, coral reef ecosystems, wildlife ecology, and fish resources, which actually have trips to places distant from Sydney, and these are stay away subjects where you actually stay away for several days or more. Other of our subjects, including 2 that I teach, have full-day field trips in the Sydney area, and several other subjects have field trips as part of the practical courses, which go for several hours. So there's a lot of opportunities to actually get out in the field and learn practical skills that you need in environmental science. As a guide for the Bachelor of Environmental Biology last year, the ATAR rank was 73.4. The Bachelor of Science, Environmental Sciences, selection rank was also 73.4. And I'll talk in a little bit about how the Bachelor of Environmental Biology and the Bachelor of Science, Environmental Sciences differ, but also what they have in common. And the Bachelor of Marine Biology had a selection rank in 2021 of 79.9. And for information on how to apply, local students apply online via the university's admissions centre, and you can find more information at science.uts.edu.au/future. Okay then, why study environmental science? Well, it's fun. That's a very good reason to study it. Even after all these years of being an environmental scientist, I still get the same buzz out of doing the work as I did as an undergraduate student. And it's a fascinating field. We get to study the science of species and ecosystems, look at how they function together, how humans affect them, and the things that we can do as responsible custodians to look after them. And that last point is really important because it means that as environmental scientists, as marine scientists, we actually get to make a really valuable contribution to something that is of great importance. So it's a very satisfying career path, and one that you can feel that you have a real opportunity to make a positive contribution. Okay, so to look at the Bachelor of Environmental Biology, here's a typical study plan that someone following environmental biology might take. So the first year of the Bachelor of Environmental Biology, that's really about setting the scene, giving you the bedrock skills and knowledge that you need to be able to progress in your studies. The second year is really sort of focusing more tightly on ecological matters. So you can see there's a number of subjects there specifically focused on ecology. And the third year gives you the opportunity to refine your career paths. And you can see that we've kept the final session free for 4 electives. So this allows you to tailor your final choice of subjects towards your interests. There is also the opportunity in that period to undertake internship subjects, both internal internships here at UTS or with external organisations. And that's becoming increasingly popular with many of our students because it is a great way to get some real world work experience and certainly increase your employability. The Bachelor of Environmental Science, you can see it's quite similar. Certainly the first year is that foundation of science, the same as the Bachelor of Environmental Biology. The second and third year are a little more flexible to tailor your interests. I've got some examples of some of the elective subjects there. So really the main difference between the Bachelor of Science, Environmental Sciences and the Bachelor of Environmental Biology. Environmental biology is tightly focused on the environmental aspect. The Bachelor of Science, Environmental Sciences degree is a little more flexible. So if you wanted to, for instance, do a bit more chemistry or a bit more maths or a bit more physics, you have that opportunity to incorporate that into the Bachelor of Science, Environmental Sciences. So with that, I will hand over to Dave, who will be able to talk to you about marine biology and the opportunities that exist for you there.
Hi everyone, good morning and thanks for joining us, you environmental and marine biology proteges. I just want to convince you in the next couple of slides that it's exactly the right time and exactly the right place if you're interested in marine biology. I don't know how many of you have heard of the IPCC report on climate change or have read the 1,000 pages. I haven't got through it yet. I was one of the reviewers. But of course, we're in a real crux with the oceans. There's a lot of threats, not just climate change. And really, there's a big lack of knowledge in how the organisms are going to respond. And so enter a marine biologist. Secondly, Sydney. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, maybe I should go to James Cook up in Townsville. Now, they have a specialist marine biology program there, which is very, very good. But the advantages of Sydney and UTS are as follows. Firstly, Sydney. I don't know how many of you have been to Townsville. I'll leave that there. And secondly, the opportunities at UTS. We have really state-of-the-art labs. We have vessels. We also have a link with what's called the Sydney Institute of Marine Science, which is a collaborative institute with the unis that do marine science in Sydney and the industry, fisheries and the EPA and the museum and those sorts of people. And we have some wonderful projects there, which we can talk about in a while. Also, Sydney is a real sort of an edge for marine biology. We have the tropical waters coming down from the north and the temperate waters. And so one of our projects looks at the tropical fish invasion in Sydney. We've got over 100 species, and there's been 600 species reported in Sydney Harbour, and that's more than the entire coast of Europe. So we're in a really special spot right in Sydney. And of course, we have access to the reef through our Coral Reefs program, and places like Lord Howe Island are only an hour and a half offshore, and some beautiful coasts if any of you ever stuck your head underwater. So Australia is very urbanised and very coastal, and Sydney's the biggest of those areas. And so we not only have the amazing wildlife, but we also have the threats right here to study. And of course, economically speaking, people are getting more and more interested in the ocean because even if you don't care about it, and who wouldn't care, but some may not, it's worth over $100 billion. And we know it's under threat. Climate change is a biggie, but also pollution and just loving it to death, I guess, in fisheries. There's lots of industries relying on the ocean and therefore potential employers or people to interact with. We have a lot of work going on with fisheries, but also with tourism and the oil and gas industry. We work on deep sea fish and the issues of removing those big structures, how to best do it ecologically. We have a lot of links with those. Also, policymakers use a lot of what you will learn and understand to decide how to manage the oceans and fisheries. We also link a lot with users of the ocean, like recreational fishers, Indigenous people. There's a big issue in Botany Bay at the moment where they want to put in a new ferry. And there's a lot of pluses and minuses there, including a big Indigenous history there. So we're helping with that. And so apart from learning the basics, and I'm in this game because I love fish, that's really my main reason, and I love being in the ocean, but you can really make a difference with a degree like this one. Next, Lee. So what is the Bachelor in Marine Biology? Well, it's first and foremost a science degree and an environmental scientist degree because you really need that background. You need that background in chemistry and experimental design and physics, tailored towards marine scientists, that is, because these are very important concepts, and also the basic and interesting parts of environmental science you'll see in our programs here. So you'll see ecology, experimental design, aquatic ecology, which also includes freshwater, which is extremely important. Microbial ecology, we know how important microbes are to the world, and a few others that aren't necessarily directly marine related, but extremely important. And so you'll sort of specialise as things go on. That's the way these degrees work. Apart from things, very important skills like remote sensing and environmental protection, you'll have the opportunity to travel to Heron Island and the Southern Barrier Reef with a really exciting intensive course you'll do there, learning about the fishes and corals and management. And as Lee mentioned, both degrees have this wonderful opportunity to take electives. So a recent student took an elective from engineering and stormwater because they were interested in how that might affect the estuaries and marine environments. Another thing to mention is internships. Now, they are really, really important, and some of the really keen students take these in lieu of a subject. For instance, we have 3 students at the moment working at Sydney Aquarium in a big project we've got to rehabilitate Sydney Harbour with seahorses. So they raise the seahorses there, the babies at the moment, quite tiny, and we'll be releasing those in about a month into Sydney Harbour to specialise what we call seahorse hotels. So those internship students have been involved with that, and then my master's research student is doing a lot of the research. And of course, this does remind me that at the end of all this, you may choose to go into an honours research year or go on further. But even if you don't, what you'll be set up with in this undergraduate degree is links with industry, employment opportunities, and just a really good lifetime knowledge in the environment, I feel. Next one, Lee. Okay, so any parents listening there, obviously, and yourselves will be very interested in the environmental opportunities for employment. And for both degrees, there's lots going on. It's really quite diverse, and you may choose to be in the public sector, and you'll see jobs listed there, national parks and wildlife, conservation rangers, and that sort of thing. Also, a number of our graduates work in fisheries management, but also in fisheries biology with DPI fisheries. Museum is another source of employment. Universities themselves, we take on research people all the time. Also CSIRO, etc. Also the private sector are more and more becoming important. And so things like the oil and gas industry, they all have environmental consultants. Consultants themselves, where there's a few big ones in Sydney. Again, a good idea to learn in Sydney and maybe intern with these if you're interested in that. So, you know, you have to work hard, you have to do well in your studies, and maybe do an internship, or even if it's not an official internship, it's always possible to link in with our graduate students, because they're all doing really cool, exciting research to learn a bit more about the game. Next, Lee. So that's the end of that. And just incidentally, Lee and I would certainly be happy to chat individually with you later on after all this is over. But there is a fairly new initiative UTS has called the Early Entry Program, whereby Year 11 students can use their results to enter UTS. So I'm not completely au fait with this, but the rundown here suggests that if you're currently enrolled in the whole system where you will be doing your HSC, it's possible to apply. It's different from the UAC process. And if you have more questions on this in the chat, I can get someone that knows a bit more about this to answer, but it's just another pathway to get to UTS if some of your areas you're a bit weak in, or if you want to really shore up your future a little bit before the HSC. So I'll leave it at that. And what's on the next one, Lee? Yeah, so there's things you can do after this. Of course, we're hoping you all follow up. You can always email us. I'm happy to take calls. When COVID lets us, we're happy to take people around the labs. We've had a number of high school interns who have come and helped us through the years. And also there's a virtual tour I see here. So all of these are possible.
All right, guys, that's actually all the time we've got. Hopefully you found this session valuable. And thank you so much for tuning in. As I said, you can ask any remaining questions in the advising chats. We've got going until 4 p.m. today. And that's it from us. Goodbye, everyone.